Good morning to everybody. Thank you for inviting us. It's a great pleasure to share today's meeting with you. Our presentation is about sport facilities and the COVID-19 sanitary restrictions, which is the past issues, fortunately. So we need to treat it as a part of history and maybe some comments for future responsibilities, how to react properly if again we will face such a disruption. COVID-19 pandemic covered 3 years. It was recognized and identified in 2019. And in January 2020, it was declared as a public emergency concern all over the world, and in Poland the same. So far, in the 2023, the pandemic has caused almost 1 million of deaths around the world. So it is believed to be one of the most dangerous pandemic in our history. And COVID-19 pandemic impact on our life totally as a whole. And it affects also sport training, sport events, physical education, active recreation, I mean sport for all activities. And it was disruption of sport around the globe. It impact on sports in many ways, in training, in sport events. So the necessary reaction and measures were very important to overcome the danger. So new rules in sports, in sport organization of training, and organization of sport events was necessary, and it affected all participants, the viewers, the athletes, the trainers, the staff of the sport facilities. And the aim of our study was to consider how to reduce the risk of the pandemic and sanitary safety of the athletes practicing various sports. And the problem was considered in terms of obligatory rules of the sanitary regime, so legal acts, WHO recommendations, rational preparing indoor and outdoor sport facilities to adapt to the new situation. And in Poland, the obligatory rules, it's the comment, was issued by the government, by the local authorities, and also by the managers of sport facilities. So it was on the higher level, medium level, and the lower level. Our research approach was to consider how to deal with the issue now for the so our research covered the 3 years on sport and reaction during the COVID-19 pandemic time. And our approach considered whether the athletes, including sport professionals, as well as coaches, viewers, managers, and staff, implemented safety measures in sport facilities. And research questions specifically were focused on consequences of COVID-19 pandemic for indoor and outdoor sport facilities, athletes, coaches, spectators, and staff infection risk, the limits of indoor facilities used during the pandemic time, the role of sanitary regime principles in reducing the various transmission. Sanitary regime and sport facilities during the pandemic-19 time was covered by the government general recommendations in each of the countries, and these regulations were individually regulated in the countries, and they were constantly changing, adapting to the current needs. In Poland, the law regulations were aimed on protecting the health of very specific groups, and it was the separate regulation how to deal with sport for the athletes and coaches' safety, viewers and journalists' safety, and staff of the sport facilities. And the example was, for example, of the sanitary restrictions was the DDM policy in all sport facilities, as in other public buildings, because it was the general rule, and the public space as well, so the outdoor facilities. DDM regulation was obligatory in some periods of time, not all the 3 years, but it was suspended and introduced accordingly to the current situation. So wearing the face masks properly, it was the instruction how to, by the WHO, how to wear it, covering the nose and mouth, hand disinfection, and keeping the physical distance. The physical distance, that's one of the comments on the safety regulation, was different in different countries. For example, in Great Britain, it was almost 2 meters considered as the safe distance. In Poland, 1.5 meters. So it is a great difference, but it depended on the country law. Another example, indoor swimming pool. Occupancy limits of the indoor swimming pool was 75% to cover at least 10 square meters per person. Occupancy limits of the seats in the audience was the 50%. Physical distance to be kept of 150 centimeters between viewers. One person for each 10 square meters in the locker rooms, showers area, administration. The great impact was focused on the locker rooms and shower areas at sport facilities. Cabinets and keys should be disinfected after each user. A minimum distance should be kept between users of changing rooms, toilets, and shower area. Regular ventilation of swimming pool area and common rooms was necessary. Regular disinfection of frequently touched surfaces as handles, for example, door handles, was introduced. Another example is the information which was provided at the sport facilities, both online, so as pre-visit requirements, and on-site to remind the users how to behave safely. And information on sanitary regime, obligatory at sport facilities, was placed in the visible places, starting from the entrance of the sport facilities. The information of instruction of hygiene rules, how to wear the face mask, how to disinfect the hands properly, was displayed in the regularly in many places, just to remind the users how to behave safely. So in all sport facilities. Another example, at the gyms, it was the signal to remind of the necessity of disinfection the gym facilities. The signals to disinfect the locker was displayed on the cloakroom and on the locker doors. Instruction of proper and diligent hand washing, accordingly to the WHO recommendation, was displayed in all sanitary area. Sanitary restrictions were especially severe in the indoor swimming pools.
Yeah, it's an example for life. It's for example, when the COVID just a little go out and we start the competition and we start meet with another places. It was the organizer of competition build the bumble. The bumble, that means that the people who participate on the competition must stay in the same hotel, must stay in the same place, in the same restaurant, in the same area. And on the beginning, when the competitors or coaches or another staff came on the competition, must have COVID passport. All participants made the COVID passport the 48 hours before the competition. Immediately after that came have to go to medicine area and make a quick test or PCR test. After that, they have accreditation to the competition. And on the beginning, when the competition start, each 2 days, all participants must make another COVID test to the end of the competition. So it was the rule, and during more than 1 year, the rules was on the competition. Example, on the swimming and diving competition on the swimming pools. It was just a little complicated, but it was good because immediately when somebody was sick, was scratched, was separated, and for the care another was good. One funny example from World Cup before the Olympic Games in Tokyo in diving, all judges must eat at the room at the hotel, and all judges go outside near the room and eat on the corridor. And we sit on the chairs and make
physical distance.
keeping the physical distance. So it's when we're talking about the rules in COVID now, sometimes it's funny, but before it was sometimes very, very complicated.
And safety precautions requirements also covered the people with showing some symptoms of infection. It was the procedure to keep these people isolated. They must not enter the sport facilities, and it applied to athletes, coaches, staff, visitors, journalists. So all people involved, and what criteria were implemented: body temperature measure and COVID vaccination passport, which should be shown to prove that all the procedures with vaccinations were completed. We are both the teachers at the Academy of Physical Education, and also the safety precautions on educations were implemented.
Yes, we like a teacher. In the first time we separated and prepared the classes, workshops on the internet, like now, like
Online
online classes. It was for the theoretical classes was easy, but I'm a fitness instructor and personal trainer, and my subjects are fitness specialization and personal trainer specialization. I prepare the new people to be coaches and instructor, and it was very difficult to find the way how teach the practical subject students. So in my opinion, COVID gave us more technical level than before, because we, like a teacher and students, know how to prepare the films, how to prepare the very nice presentation. And for example, my fitness instructors prepared some parts of classes and workshop for the fitness gym, for the fitness choreography, TBC, sorry, total body condition workshop. And in my opinion, because I was worried about the level or the preparing before the exam, because the students pass exam after the specialization and stay the instructor. I worry about the level, and really it was nice, because if, for example, student prepare the film, prepare the kind of part of classes, sometimes they prepare many times and then put on the website or on the computer, on the online system, and I show the last version after, for example, I don't know, 6 or 7 times repeaters. So it was good experience, and for everyone, I think.
The big trouble was connected with organized sport activities. So the number of participants were limited. So it covered the training and swim classes, the sport events, the rehabilitation classes, aqua aerobic. Because it was necessary to keep a safe distance. In some period of time, the sport facilities were closed, and we all remember the Tokyo 2020, which was suspended, the Olympic Games, and really Tokyo 2020 was organized at 2021. And the Summer Olympic Games in Tokyo were held 1 year later without the presence of viewers. So it was for the first time in the history of the Olympic Games that only the athletes and coaches and judges were present. And the new motto of International Olympic Committee was faster, higher, stronger, together, to communicate the necessity of unity and solidarity when it is the extraordinary and difficult time. Sport and education in the pandemic time, as Dr. Bartłomiej KRYNICKI just explained, was connected with the suspended classes, limited number of students, with safety precautions as DDM policy, disinfection of sport indoor facilities, ventilation of the indoor sport facilities, COVID vaccination necessity, and immediate installation of suspect cases whenever it was necessary. So our results and conclusions. The main purpose of the sanitary restriction at sport facilities, increase the safety and users and staff. Our experience is with the students' classes and with the trainings and of the athletes is that it really worked. So fortunately, we had now the death cases. So minimizing the risk of infection of users and staff and athletes and students, it repaid. So now, of course, having the distance of this time, we can say that maybe it was bothering, maybe it was sometimes funny, because also in terms we measured, but it gave us a moment of the safety. We could consider the changes in using the sport facilities in the future. For example, we know that now we don't know the really good system how to deal with the air conditioning, because it's very dangerous. Not always it is possible to ventilate the indoor facilities, because, for example, the swimming pools need to be ventilated and need to be covered by the air conditioning system very carefully because of the humidity, because of the temperature. So we hope that in future this system will be better solved, because now it is not it's not possible to deal with it properly. And having the distance of 1 year from the COVID-19, we know that the social costs of the sanitary restrictions is really very high, because it affected the sport training, the sport events, the physical education, the sport for all, and the rehabilitation activities. And Dr. Bartłomiej KRYNICKI will comment it on the measures of the level of training and sport results.
Yeah, I'm in LENA TDC, that's European Aquatic Association in diving, and we observed the level, especially in junior level, is not too high like before the COVID. For example, and the results on the last European Diving Championships in last year in Bucharest was near 20, sometimes 22% than before the COVID. So the sports system, I think, must rebuild, and let's see in this year how the sportsmen, how the kids, how the coaches, or totally another sports staff preparing special the kids, because in the senior level we saw that it was only from 5 to 7% near than before the COVID, but in the kids level was much higher. So it's our observation. We analyzation the results on the competition, and maybe in the moment we put the report on the table, and let's see. But it's now it's the first observation, because last year it was the first competition. We start the competition in 2022, and all season was complete. So let's see. We have the second season after the COVID. So let's see what we see in this year.
Another result of the pandemic is the really discovery of how the outdoor sport facilities could be safe during pandemic time. And we observed in Warsaw, because that's the place we live in, that it was the great interest put on the green gyms, on the street workouts. Many people started to ride bicycles, whole families, as a matter of fact, because outdoor space was considered as much safer than indoor space. So instead of the indoor gyms, the great discovery was put on the outdoor sport and recreation facilities. We should be aware that some future challenges, we are facing some future challenges for planning sport facilities, and to be able to cover the safer and more strict sanitary regime to be implemented whenever it is necessary. So future solutions for sport facilities is, in our opinion, the question of being flexible, being prepared anytime to react properly for the sanitary regime. For example, increased role of non-contact solution, automatic doors replacing traditional door with handle, open escalators rather, or staircases rather than lifts, because lifts, as you remember, were considered as very dangerous during pandemic. The big question is about the air conditioning system, which should be replaced by natural ventilation windows or system safer during pandemic time, but it's not always possible, as for example in the indoor swimming pools. So we have many concerns for future study and discussion of the pro-ecology designing for concept on flexible solutions for new functions and new level of sanitary safety, covering the athletes, coaches, staff, viewers. And the question is to be able to be quickly and easily implemented whenever it is necessary. And of course, outdoor sport facilities are safer. So I think that we should consider also, when planning the sport and recreation facilities in terms of urban planning and spatial planning, that they are really very important green areas where during the pandemic time there's more safety covered. And of course, the future is unpredictable. We can't tell whether or if the great pandemic will touch us again. So the flexibility and readiness for changes could be the safe answer. If you have any questions to the issues we just presented, please do not hesitate to contact us. We'll be very glad to answer all your questions and to also to be part of the great discussion. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be with you.